Okay, here we are, lunchtime on day 3 of GameOn, and then we're going to go around and see what people are playing. The new Divine Right from Worthington. How is it?
It's turn-based.
Good.
It's turn-based strategy.
A little old school and
It's what?
a little old school.
Yeah,
old school.
very old school.
And actually, the game mechanics, you're fighting that really more than you are each other.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Oh, nice.
I do like the map art.
You roll on charts and you then see what happens to you. You get cards
So on down. That's how
randomly.
And on your turn, you
do
move
things or not.
Have you played the other fantasy game that came out recently? From
I
Compass?
played the mod, and then the mods add
My mind is blanking right
more
now.
stuff from
Burning
Burning
Banners.
Banners, yeah.
I
did.
don't know how much you know about
Okay.
it.
I'm curious how they compare.
Burning Banners is much better.
Okay, interesting. I played Burning Banners and I didn't much care for it, so. Okay.
Yeah.
Got some SETI happening over here. Got a game of the Napoleonic Wars.
Typically, a convoy may deploy from a friendly port to another friendly port.
Looks like they're just getting started with this one. Got some 18XX.
Doing so.
Which game are we playing today?
Railways of the Lost Atlas.
Oh, cool. So you're building the map as you go? Is that the deal?
At the beginning of the game.
Neat.
At the beginning of the game. Yeah.
Is it all train games for you this weekend?
No, but I do have another train.
I'm excited to play PNW on Sunday.
Yeah.
Cool. Which coin game?
Red Dust Rebellion.
Oh, yeah, right. Cool. What else have we got? We got Age of Innovation being set up over there.
Let's say I did this. I placed there, fast token, placed there, fast token, and then I placed this, all in one turn.
Not sure what game that is. Here's the new Napoleonic multiplayer game Alliance from Colombia on a huge oversized map. How are you liking it, Jeff?
Fun. You know, if you know Columbia games, you know the mechanics. The blocks are the same, fog of war,
Yeah.
and then just add 6 people.
Fun.
It's awesome.
Fun.
We broke a few wrinkles in the rules that could be cleared up, but it's a very accessible.
This is Grant, one of the
Grant from Columbia.
Multiplayer
Well, on
block
behalf of
game.
Columbia. You're the designer, one of the designers of the game? Yeah, cool. How's it going? Fun? Watching?
Napoleon almost died in the first turn.
Oh, that reminds me. I played Falling Skies one time, and Caesar died in the first turn. Yeah. Are you playing France?
Him to back off. I think he was ready to go. Oh, wait.
It looks really cool. The game looks awesome.
Take one of these.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
free stuff on the front too.
Oh, yeah, cool. Awesome. I love the artwork that was used for Alliance. The box and whatnot. Looks really good. Fun times. I really want to play that. They've also got, looks like the new Quebec 1759, which I backed, is here as well. The first block game. Here's the cover of Alliance. Love the artwork on that. Got a game of Fire in the Lake happening over here. I'm going to be playing Commands and Colors Tricorne later with Kim, who's part of that game. We got some Combat Commander. D-Day at Utah, still going. That game has outlasted our game, and so has this one, Victory Roads. This guy. Germans taking a new defensive line here. 1823. Got Library Napoleonic Battles continuing here. This is 4 Lost Battles. This is the Battle of Grossbeeren. Yes, I do remember this one. This is the first actually scenario I played of this system.
Oh, really?
I learned it with this scenario, yeah.
Okay.
We got some Normandy 44 happening. We got the OCS table still going. Germans look like they have really pushed forward. Have really forced the Soviets off of their line. It looks like their starting position. Trying not to get encircled, the Russians. Yeah. having to eat the local vegetation to stay in supply. We'll come back to the eventual outcome of Thunder on the Mississippi. We just finished it up, and I have a lot to say about it. Got the U.S. Civil War, again, for the second day in a row, they put the Civil War games on tables next to each other. 1863 scenario in progress. You're cleaning up some blind swords or setting up some blind swords?
Just packing up.
Which one were you playing?
Salem Church, so Centric Attacks.
Okay.
We got through to 540, but it was more about teaching Thomas Prowl the system.
The system.
He really liked it. We've been wanting to play it. I've been talking about it for years, and he finally had time to sit down with me.
I love blind swords. It's great. It's fantastic. I like it better than Black Swan. I heard you talking about that yesterday.
I haven't played Black Swan yet.
Oh, really?
Other than I have The Devil's to Pay, which is a small first day Gettysburg.
Yeah, yeah.
That I like. The whole big thing, I don't know.
Got some Pursuit of Glory happening over here. Great game. Got more Normandy 44 set up here, and we got looks like a game of Commands and Colors Napoleonics going on. Epic Napoleonics?
Play one of the cards from here. It's not like an option. Yeah, I know. I'd never done that. I was like,
Looks like the Peninsular Campaign. Some battle.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
You guys playing the Epic version?
No. Well, yes, it's epic.
Epic, but not Legrand.
No.
Whatever, yeah.
Okay, cool. French lining up against the British and Spanish and Portuguese over there. And let's go see what's happening downstairs. Let's see what's going on down here. It looks like there's some sort of away from the table negotiation or conversation happening here. There's some games this morning that are being played. I don't know. There's just nothing in there except some lunch. I know the ASL tournament's probably starting today. Oops, excuse me. Oh yeah, we got tons of games down here. Let's see what we got. Plum Island Horror. Got some Twilight Imperium.
In 2 colors, and then there's 2 unit upgrades.
We got the Sardak Nor over here, those assholes. Oh, you're the Mentak Coalition. So last time I played with the Mentak Coalition.
you?
They're very fun. Space Pirates?
Yeah.
Very fun.
So we'll see how it goes.
We got the Embers of Muat, so someone started with a War Sun. That's always great. And the Ghosts of Creus, which is my favorite faction.
Objectives?
Which is the sort of wormhole faction.
We're just playing for fun. We don't actually score.
4-player game. That's pretty good. That's a good player mix.
So it just.
We got
Is it specifically where we need to put it?
this.
No. Everyone's collecting 0.
And upkeep.
Right. I don't know what game this is. Maybe you know what game this
It is
is.
turn order as well.
Okay.
It's a big box, but I can't see the
Here,
title.
this is the decade. This
That's
is
cool. We got what game is this?
Hegemony.
Oh, Hegemony. Yeah, second game of Hegemony I've seen this weekend. Okay, cool.
To keep the peace, I might,
And over here,
I'll just try
Vast.
a Wrath right now.
This is a fun game. Kind of a dungeon crawl with asymmetric player powers and what have you. So that's this room. Let's see if there's anything else in another room. Northwest ASL Championship setting up. We're just about to get underway down here. So that's what's happening downstairs. And it is in the books. Thunder on the Mississippi is done. Turn 70. We went all the way to the end. And it was, what an epic experience. It, like I said, reminds me why I love Great Campaigns of the American Civil War. It also reminds me of some of the things that really drive me nuts about Great Campaigns of the American Civil War. Let's start with the situation and what happened. So, if you look at the turn track, we've got the major milestones here. I put Vicksburg under siege on May 23rd, turn 24. That was here. On turn 65, the Confederate players voluntarily surrendered the city. So that's what, almost 41 turns under siege. They surrendered the city. The reason they did that is because the garrison at Vicksburg was something like 54 strength points, as you see here. Surrendering the city allowed, and normally I would get casualties for all those if I took it by force, but it was on turn 65 during the bombardment phase, or the fort phase, that I actually destroyed 3 of the 5 forts surrounding the city, so he gave it up. And he did that because when you surrender the garrison, you only score points, the number of garrison strength points divided by 10, and then subtract 4 from that. So I actually only got 1 victory point from the garrison in Vicksburg. And that was somewhat bittersweet because at that point in the game, as we all know, Sherman's army of maneuver had been surrounded and driven back by a series of very unlucky initiative wins by the Confederate player and a lot of manpower losses. And so coming into the final 5 turns of the game, the Union was down 6 or 7 points, victory points of manpower, and in order to win. And so that forced the Union player, me, to regather my forces and then try and cross the Big Black River the other direction again, where I had blown all of the fords and bridges. And unfortunately, because I was behind on manpower, I was forced to take an aggressive posture and attack in some very bad odds, including here across this river against this redoubt, which I did 3 times. And all I needed was to win a single die roll, and I didn't win all 3 of them, which gets to the larger point of dice luck in this system. But we'll come back to that. But as you can see from the final positions, Union in a really commanding position here. The Confederates being outflanked to the south. And kind of caught here, especially these units caught in this redoubt near the Big Black River. They've got some scattered forces back here, but essentially, and in the north, we've got another Union corps coming down. So the game ended in a very commanding position for the Union. It was merely the casualties that decided the victory for the Confederates, and that feels a little bit bittersweet, I guess, or salty. It's a Pyrrhic victory, certainly, for both sides, depending on how you want to look at it. From a strategic perspective, we took the city, and the Civil War is going to, that really hampers the Confederate ability to win the Civil War. But for the game purposes, it does feel a little weird that having outnumbering them, having taken the main objective, losing the game, I guess unacceptable Union losses, I'm not sure. We never did take Jackson, and that was maybe a mistake on my part. I just didn't feel like getting to Jackson and then getting all the way back across to siege Vicksburg in time was going to happen, given where we were on the turn track. I mean, it would have, if I had done that, it would have taken me probably another 8 to 9 turns to actually put Vicksburg under siege. That would have meant that I would have missed 2 Vicksburg surrender segments, and that means that, had the game gone exactly the same up to 65, I probably would not have destroyed the forts, and it would still be under siege. Maybe in turn 70 I would have destroyed them, but then at that point there's no reason for the Confederate player to voluntarily give the city up. So I don't know what I necessarily could have done differently in this case, given where I was. I guess maybe push a little bit harder in the early going. But again, this is where we come to like the dice luck of GCACW. It can be really infuriating sometimes when the dice don't go your way, because every roll is pretty critical. So first, there's the die roll for marching, and I just don't see a way for Grant to get from the landing in Bruinsburg all the way down here to Jackson and take it, and then get to Vicksburg and putting it under siege by May 22nd, which is what he did historically. I just don't see how that's possible unless you get really, really lucky on your march rolls. So already you're a little bit behind the 8 ball as the Union in order to make that happen. Secondly, the events curve is labeled in such a way in sort of the first 5 turns of the game that the Confederates are really likely to get movement or command paralysis, which severely limits their ability to maneuver and lets Grant crush these early units down in Claiborne County before they can retreat to Vicksburg. Well, in our game, I didn't roll a single one of these until in the green section. So it's turn 6 is when I got my first Confederate command paralysis and movement penalty, which the chances of it drastically decrease when you get to May 5th. So I was extremely unlucky in the early campaign, and that had a really big snowball effect for the rest of the game. He was able to withdraw to Vicksburg and basically put the maximum number of manpower in there to prevent advantageous die roll modifiers during the siege. He slowed me down enough that I couldn't take Jackson with what I had. That then had another knock-on domino effect of allowing Confederate reinforcements to enter the city when they came on the board, and so he was able to build up a giant army. Now, all of that would have been fine had it then not been for me pulling back Sherman's army of maneuver and then losing the initiative roll 6 or 7 straight times in a row, which got Sherman's army surrounded. And that's where all the manpower losses that the Union took came in and ultimately decided the game. So we're talking about a first half of the game where the die rolls that you make are extremely critical for the second half of the game. And I don't know how I feel about that. It feels pretty bad to be on the losing side of that. Alternatively, if you're on the good side of that, it probably feels pretty good. And then that just compounded more and more. I got really bad die rolls on attacks towards the end of the game, and it felt like. And the other thing I should mention, the fort destruction around the city of Vicksburg, you are at the whim of the dice here. It's a 50-50 roll whether you increase the degradation level of the forts. So A, you can get really unlucky and get, if the dice go cold on you, you may never pierce this fort line. B, you may pierce the fort line in a really suboptimal manner where you're putting 1 on each of them every other turn. So every 10 turns, you're only getting 1 increase here. Thankfully, I rolled okay on that. There's a chance that the Union, even if they do everything right, gets to this section, and there's no modifiers to that roll other than whether or not you took Jackson. And so it's possible you get to the siege and they just withstand you and you just lose because the dice go cold. There's a lot of critical stuff where the dice are extremely important and there's no control over whether or not you roll what you need, and that can really determine the outcome of the game. And don't get me wrong, I love it. but it just feels bad when it goes against you. And I really want to play this again, knowing the tempo and the pacing of the campaign, to try some other things, because I think as the Union, you need to take a lot more risk than in other GCACW games. And with that risk comes the possibility that you're going to lose the campaign early, but you won't know it until late. So you spend so much time playing the game early, you're pushing, you're taking risks, and you're not sure if those risks are going to end up punishing you as you get later in the game. So it's a really hard game to feel like it's a really hard game to feel like you're in at any given point, or whether you're making a mistake. The ramifications of those mistakes don't appear till way later, and that kind of feels bad when that happens to you. Now, I will say we were really close right up until the end. It was a matter of 4 or 5 points for the most part until I had to go on the offensive. So it's not like it was wildly imbalanced, but in the later stages of the game, I could see where some of the things I did or didn't do really came back to bite me, and we had already played another 20 hours between those 2 decision points, or those dice rolls that went against me. So yeah, it's very compelling. I really like the way that the game sort of balloons from this small landing of forces into this huge march across country, into this really aggressive attack, and then getting into position for the siege. And then once the siege begins, you have to defend possibly against the Confederate advance. You really get to play all sides of the combat: attacker, defender, maneuver, all of that stuff. As a campaign game for GCACW, of the ones that I have played, this one is extremely interesting, and it's a hallmark of how much fun I had playing this, that I immediately want to set this up and start it again. Yes, all 70 turns. It is a really, really interesting scenario. I think it's a great topic for a game, and if you're looking at one great campaigns of the American Civil War purchase, I think Thunder on the Mississippi is the best place probably to start if you want the breadth of the experience. It's got a lot of short, tiny scenarios, and then it's got this epic campaign that's got a really cool flow and tempo to it. So this is one that I actually want to take off the shelf and play again relatively soon, just because of the narrative that emerged and the story that happened. And the decision points that I know now how to make better as the Union player. But yeah, as we look at the final positions here, we've got the Confederates and the Union entrenched along the river. We've got McPherson and, in this stack here, Force 1, Washburn, trying to break these redoubt hexes. We've got Ord and McPherson coming up to swallow the Confederates on the south. So all in all, had a great time playing Thunder on the Mississippi for 2.5 days, and yeah, I'm going to be playing more GCACW this year. I think the next one I want to tackle is probably Hood Strikes North. I've got a friend who texted me after seeing some of my recent videos about GCACW, saying that he's really interested in learning the system, and of course I'm more than happy to play it. It's my favorite hex and counter system, even if I have to live with the fickle dice. So yeah, this was a great time at this convention, and we're only halfway done, so we got 2.5 more days, and I'll be playing some other stuff, which you'll see soon. Just a quick look here. We've got on this table over here a heated diplomacy discussion in alliances in the 7-player game. The table right next door, we've got the Napoleonic Wars and a heated diplomatic discussion at the table. It's like all the games that have to share neighbor tables: alliances, Napoleonic Wars. Okay, just finished the first ever game I've ever played of Commands and Colors Tricorne. We did the Battle of Monmouth, 1778, and it was a absolutely overwhelming, resounding American victory. I don't think I rolled a hit for 75% of my combats, and I think I got hit on every single die roll the Americans threw at me. As you can tell, there's the pile of dead, and the massive casualty disparity and wall of American units. The system is an interesting tweak on Commands and Colors in that, like, when you retreat your units, you then have to roll dice to make a morale check, and if you don't roll a flag on your morale check, the unit just evaporates and routes off the field. So you can lose units even if you don't take hits, which is kind of a really interesting formula change for the system. And if you want to see exactly how my game went, I took a retreat and a hit on a cavalry unit on the final fire combat of the game, and then I rolled my morale check, and of course I rolled, I don't know, what is the odds of this? What's 1 in 6 times 3? 1 in 100 and something, 1 in 132 or something like that. So yeah, just killing it this weekend with my die rolling. We are going to have a rematch, and we are playing the Battle of Bemis Heights, 1777. I'm the British again, mostly Hessians, and I'm going to try and get revenge on the friggin' rebels. Battle of Bemis Heights is over, and it was a historical American victory. We've got a couple Hessians here. We got an artillery battery and these like straggling infantry regulars. The British, who started all up here, wasn't good for them. 1 regular, 1 light infantry. The Americans just too much, as it turned out at the end. Most of my casualties actually not from die rolls. The dice were actually quite kind to me in this game. That most of the casualties came from routing, which is something I'll touch on when I go over the system here in a second. But it's a real easy sometimes for your units to just evaporate when they take a retreat result. In fact, the British militia, they just fled. They just left. And I had another unit, I think, of Hessian Grenadiers and Hessian Regulars just leave the battle. Where were the American casualties? Probably significantly less. I think 1 unit routed, and I did some hits, but she was able to reform them. So, but I did get a little loot here. Everyone who's playing games with Kim is getting a little drink cooling, or what are they called? Koozies, yeah, for GameOn. So I got the consolation prize for it. All right, it is Friday at dinner time, and we are going to take a look at what people are playing here on day 3 of the con. We got some of the door prizes here. It's a little ticket raffle. We got some interesting stuff. Just of Robin Hood, Fighting for Nations from GMT, Pacific War from Lock and Load, Congress of Vienna, some new stuff. Got a copy of Quebec 1759 from Columbia, who actually showed up at the show this year. Normandy 44, this is a 2v2 game that's been going on. They're going to set up here for more Commands and Colors Napoleonics epic 4v4 game, Peninsular Campaign. Mare Nostrum is being played here. Haven't seen that game on the table in a while. More Triumph and Tragedy. People just can't get enough. Got a pirate game called Plunder over there that they were playing. It was pretty loud. More Dune War for Arrakis. The Utah Beach situation here. I don't know how to read this game visually because I've never played GTS, but I would imagine that the Allies have landed. If green are the Americans, they've actually pushed inland, it looks like. What else we got? $10 words. A word letter game over there. Speaking of Columbia, Julius Caesar, a classic. They are still playing for 4 Lost Battles, Grossbeeren. Looks like maybe they might be done, possibly, maybe. Let's take a look at OCS. Germans have pushed forward quite a bit. And I don't feel good about those Soviet units right now, given where they are.
That's right, they got tree bark soup to eat.
Yeah, well, last time I came over, they were eating tree bark soup. It's a lot of deforestation to feed the army. We got, this is Stalingrad 42, so they're going to be playing the campaign of this starting tomorrow. Don't know if they're going to make it the whole way, but that's pretty cool. Maybe a scenario. Did we end? Did we finish?
We were 3 turns from the end, but we decided to pack it in. I'm not going to take Berlin.
German victory. Marginal German victory.
We just had a big discussion about all the different kinds of victories. And the fact that he chickened out and didn't try to hold Ploeski or Courland or Budapest.
Well, I have yet to win a single game I've played this weekend, so I would take a marginal victory any day. Looks like the Game of Alliance finished up. Don't know who won that one, but I do really want... I'm thinking about picking up a copy of this while I'm here. What are we playing over here?
Endeavor Deep Sea.
Oh, yeah. Cool. Endeavor Deep Sea. Nice. Unfathomable. It's like a horrific Lovecraftian nightmare unfolding on the table.
I don't. I think he said there's Cult Leader, but not Cult
I don't know what this game is. I've got 12-12, the Las Navas de Tolosas, which is a tactical game about the Middle Ages. It's the, what is it? Who's the conflict between? This is
the Muslim and the Christian forces during the Crusade in the Iberian Peninsula.
Reconquista. Yeah. Cool. It's from Dracoides. This is Feed the Kraken, another sea monster type deal going on. A lot of players there. Got we got 1822, Railways of Great Britain.
So are you done bidding?
It's been nothing but trains over at this table today.
To place an
and
agent.
Dune Imperium.
Okay. So in this case, if I use this card to place an agent,
Cool deck building game. Pretty involved, pretty strategic. Let's go see what downstairs holds. Well, and then I'm gonna go get some food. Okay, downstairs at GameOn. That room I have yet to see used this week. On Mars. A game about being on Mars.
No, Mars, no. Bad plan.
Finishing up, what is this?
River of Gold.
River of Gold. I like the map. Wow, it's really pretty. They foil, like, printed the
Yeah, it's really...
That's pretty.
Go River.
Shiny.
Nice. This is from the Legend of Five Rings universe, it looks like.
Yes. But the only minor thing, you only put 4 clans into it. You have Scorpion, Crane, Crab, and Mantis.
He cried so hard. No dragon.
So we kind of made like this, right? There's room for expansion.
Yeah, for sure.
Because definitely, if they decide if it did well, and they might come out with
other clans and
the other clans.
But it is smart not to put dragons in the core because like everyone would be sad when they don't get to be the dragon. You know, you'd have 3 sad players and one or be dragon.
Well, no. So take,
Yeah.
No, because in the card game, we didn't play dragons.
Yeah.
But also have one person got.
And finally down here we have got, looks like a game of Tanto Manta setting up. I don't know, yeah, they're punching it right now, so they're gonna, they're not starting till tomorrow. They are not gonna be done possibly till the end of Sunday. But this is, yeah, as you know, one of my favorite games of last year, and I guess I might pop down here and see how they're doing, maybe help them out if they have questions, because I know that any first-time player is going to have lots of questions about this. Finally got to play Commands and Colors Tricorne, the American Revolution Commands and Colors game. This is what you just saw, the end of the Bemis Heights scenario. So how does this stack up to other Commands and Colors games? Because that's the one thing I always wonder when it comes to this series. What's different? Why should I buy or play this one versus other ones? So what I find really interesting about this game is that it occupies a perfect middle ground between Commands and Colors Ancients and Commands and Colors Napoleonics in terms of complexity, but also the way that the battles unfold. So most of the battles, actually, a lot of the combat here is going to be ranged, and units can do both melee and ranged. Like Commands and Colors Ancients, you melee with full strength no matter how many blocks you have. So if this guy's attacking this guy here in melee, let's say they're closer together, he is still going to roll his maximum complement of dice. Unlike Commands and Colors Ancients, the dice that you roll in melee are actually very few. The most dice you can get in any ranged or melee combat is going to be 2, essentially, for the most part. Some units can get +1, but in this game, leadership is much more important. The leaders kind of do everything. So leaders give you extra dice in melee combat if you're not artillery, and also range combat. So having a leader automatically gives you extra dice. If you're at full strength, like these units are here, you get an extra die. So a leader with a full strength unit actually gives you +2 dice on your attacks, allowing you to roll 4. Because of this, leadership is really much more important. Additionally, if a leader is in a hex by himself, he provides support, the ability to ignore retreats in every adjacent hex with friendly units. So here, this guy would be able to ignore one, this guy would be able to ignore one. That's much different than other games in the series. The dice are pretty standard, but the real wrinkle here is when retreats are rolled. So let's just say, for example, I made an attack and this leader was not here, forced these guys to retreat, maybe something like this. So they would take a hit, and then they would have to retreat 1 hex. Every time a unit retreats in this game, you make a morale check. And your morale check in this game is going to be a number of dice equal to the number of blocks you have left, +1 if you're at full strength, +1 if you have a leader. So in this case, I'd only be rolling 2. I'd roll my 2 dice, and if I don't roll a flag, which in this case I did not, this unit, no matter how many blocks it has left, just disappears. They rout off the field of battle. So full strength units in the system can actually become casualties very quickly. And anytime you're forced to retreat, you're dreading making a morale check roll, especially if you're low on units like this. Now some units are better than others. So for example, if we have, look at here, these Prussian Grenadiers, they get +1 roll to their morale check all the time, no matter how many blocks they have left. So if they're full strength, they're forced to retreat, and they have a leader, they're going to be rolling 7 dice on the morale check. So it's almost impossible to get them to rout. Conversely, and what happened to me in the Bemis Heights scenario, is we have some militia. I took a loss to my militia, then I had to retreat, and even though I was rolling 3 dice, militia naturally get -1 dice to their morale check, so I only rolled 2, and when I rolled those 2 dice, all 3 of these militia units fled the battlefield and gave the Americans the final victory banner to win the game. So it's a really interesting combination of Ancients and Napoleonics in the sense that you still hit really hard in melee, but you're probably rolling less dice. And when it comes to number of blocks, that doesn't affect it until you have to retreat. Then the number of blocks actually matters. Leadership is far more important, and so it's not quite as complex as Napoleonics, but I think it really captures the linear warfare pretty good. Your actually best bet in this system is to actually attack at range, because if you don't move and you fire, you're going to roll 2 dice at 2 hexes and 1 die at 3 hexes. But if you have a leader, again, you get +1 die, and if you have full strength, you get another one. So a full strength unit shooting at 2 hexes with a leader will roll 4 dice in range. It's actually a really nice system. It's pretty elegant. Does away with some of the complexities of the Napoleonic era, while still retaining some of that feel as you approach that era with this game. So overall, pretty happy with Commands and Colors Tricorne, and I'm excited to break out the French expansion and play some of the scenarios in there, because the French have some different unit qualities compared to the British Hessians and the Americans.